Hi, I'm Dr. Bertice Berry, and I want to tell you a story. I was working in my work, and I was helping people to share stories. After people share stories, I ask them to not share what they heard or what they said, but to share observations. A woman raised her hand and said, I'm partnered with my husband. We've been married 50 years. I just heard stories I've never heard. How is that? Somebody else said, yeah, I've known this guy my whole life almost, and we just shared some things we've never heard. I just smiled. One of my mother's phrases came to mind, and the phrase was this: are you writing a book? My mother would say that whenever people interrupted a story and began to ask questions about that story. In other words, they were interrogating about the things they'd heard, not waiting for what they needed to hear. Very often, a person is saying what they need to tell you, but it takes about 1 minute and 30 seconds before it changes to what you need to hear. There's a thing in there, and I don't know sometimes if it's hoogada boogada or the Holy Spirit, but it just happens. And most of the time, we interrogate people with what we think we need to know. And my mother would say, are you writing a book? Are you writing a book? I remember when I first started writing, I just started asking her a bunch of questions so she could say, are you writing a book? And I was like, actually, I am. But if you let a person tell you the story that their soul needs to tell, it doesn't take long. Somewhere around 1 minute and 30 seconds, it starts to kick in and become the story that your soul needs to hear. I don't know the exact science of it. I don't know how to decipher it. I don't know how this works, except that we are wired for narrative. We are wired to connect through narrative. Oh, I wish the folks who took out the benches to keep homeless people or people without a home, without a house from sleeping on those benches, I wish they put those benches back. Because it's sitting, just taking a moment to take a rest. Sitting and listening to the story of someone you wouldn't have known, you wouldn't have heard. That story that's volunteered by someone you may never see again. But it lingers and it lasts, and it was the piece of information that you needed in your life. We need those benches, but we need to listen. And even when we are writing a book, if we stop and listen, folks will give it to you. I love you.